Ladies just turned 14 in August.
Bouncing around, yeah.
Just to get the photographer schedule takes.
Yeah, it's a handful.
Mine's
40 and he's back home.
to get the time.
Well, he hurt himself. He fractured his heel.
For me,
Oh,
So he's got to be off work for 2 months.
take the day, don't the day. I'll try
Yeah.
to accommodate,
I have a friend from LA tonight too. Yeah.
Oh,
Yes. Well, my house. Maybe if you've already got Monday scheduled.
I was pickle this morning besides being cold.
Cold. It was fun. It was a lesson. So it wasn't,
Pickleball lessons.
Uh-huh.
You know.
I think I've taken them for 2 years now and we just have such a fun group of women that do it that we, I mean, we're not going to get much better than we are, but
The lessons helping.
they're okay. You know,
What are you learning?
I don't know.
Get
I was
it
gonna say
over
it's
the
always
net.
been tennis.
Right.
Yeah.
Ashley knows this from tennis. Get it over the net. That's the
Yeah.
first thing.
Well, I used to play this woman in high school, her girl. She drove me nuts. She would always just hit it back. She wasn't very good, really. She just hit it back. And even people that were really good couldn't beat her because all she did was just hit it back.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
what it is.
Good.
I've never played any sport ever before. So just
Australian Open.
the whole learning.
Yeah. How'd you guess?
For me, it's a little awkward to between tennis. I did it a couple
Mhm.
times. Marty. Yeah, it's a weird feeling. I guess I think used to it, but
There's a lot of tennis players
So,
that take up pickleball when they
first
can't
lesson.
really keep
yeah,
up
Uh,
with tennis anymore because it's not as.
Alan Waters is on,
some that go back and
active.
forth
on Zoom.
So-
Christina is here.
and I don't know.
Nobody that I play with, and we have a group that plays here 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And it's about, it averages from 8 to 14 people.
It's great though.
It is. It is. They're all super nice people.
Those tennis courts weren't being used that much.
Yeah.
Have you watched any of those pickleball tournaments on the tennis channel?
Yes.
No.
And they're amazingly fast. Yeah.
Ah,
You should check them out.
okay.
Yeah.
It's probably like table tennis is pretty.
It becomes a net game.
Yeah.
Bam, 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 bam. Yeah.
There's a lot of them on YouTube too.
Oh, yeah.
Just little short clips.
There was a guy out here last weekend who was giving somebody a lesson who said that the legends, McEnroe, Roddick, who are the other two? 4 legend tennis players are going to do an exhibition pickleball match
Mhm.
on television. Yeah.
That'd be
LeBron
great.
James bought a professional pickleball team.
Really?
Yes, they're a I mean, there's not a lot of money in it right now, but
Wow.
it's like $100,000 a
Amazing.
match.
I think it's the best leaders isn't a mother-daughter team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you guys ready to start?
Yep.
Good evening and welcome to the February meeting of the Nepenthe Board of Directors. Our agenda tonight isn't too long, but before we start, a couple of issues I'd like to talk about.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Well,
You- I'm talking into the microphone. I'm talking into the microphone.
You have to talk onto the
I
mic.
got to talk into the microphone. All right, let me start over. Welcome to the meeting. Our agenda is not too long tonight, but I have to do a president's message at the beginning, so just let me, a couple of things. We are still recovering from storm damage, although I think Carson has done an amazing job, which is frankly, in my opinion, an indication of having a good contractor and having a good relationship with their contractor. They have even brought people from their office to help us clean up. So they've taken it very seriously. In your board packet, if you had a chance to look at it, between Christmas and the end of January, the association issued 200, I say again, 200 work orders, about half of which were for storm-related issues. So Betsy and Nirmal have been scrambling, and you deserve some serious kudos. You and Nirmal. Yeah, it's been crazy. Secondly, sitting next to Betsy, and we will come to him, this is Paul Reeves. After we get through some preliminary issues, Paul is going to give us an update on the phase 1 siding and painting project. Spoiler alert, it's costing us a lot of money, more than we had thought. But honestly, when we see the damage that they're replacing, this is well overdue. Lastly, I would like everyone to know that effective tonight, I am resigning from this board of directors. I am also stepping back seriously from another board that I belong to at UC Berkeley. This has not been an easy decision. I have a heart problem. That's the easiest thing for me to say. I've been under the care of a cardiologist now for several years. I have the same cardiologist that Marcy Best has. And she has encouraged me strongly to simplify my life, to slow down and seriously consider open heart surgery, which sounds pretty scary to me. So the first step I'm taking is to release myself from these two boards of directors. I have consulted with my daughters. I have 5 of them, and they've been pushing me for months to take this step. So I have not taken it lightly, but honestly, based on my cardiologist's recommendations and the push from my daughters, I'm making this. So my resignation will be effective at the end of this meeting. Marcus will take over the board until the board meets next week to select a new president. So, any comments or questions? Okay, I didn't think so. Thank you.
John?
I'm sorry. Well, thank you. Linda. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, we met in an executive session for about 3 hours this afternoon. I feel like my butt has been glued to a chair in this building today, but that comes with the program. In addition to dealing with some disciplinary issues, we approved 3 relatively small contracts to prepare for phase 2 siding replacement. 2 of them to take care of the initial inspection to determine what the issues are. And the third one will be actually for Paul to be the construction manager during the actual work itself. Paul will probably give us some information tonight about when you suspect that's going to happen based on what's happening now. I don't suspect, you may think they may overlap. I'm not sure. So you can tell us. Okay. So I wanted to let you know that. Okay. So Paul, you're up.
Okay. Can everybody online hear me? Hope everybody in the room can hear me. Okay, has everyone had it, anyone who cared has a chance to look at my report for January that was included with the board packet? Okay, so this is what gets sent to the board the last week of every month, is a report that looks like this. And it always has a brief overview of what we're doing and where we're at. And then, of course, the financials that go along with it. The significance of this one is what we're doing right now is phase 1. Phase 1 is broken into 5 sections. Section 1 is now complete with the first 39 units. So when we look at the finances at the bottom of this page, which is one with all the change orders, it shows us what the original dollar amount for the contract for the siding, trim, drywall, or excuse me, siding and trim repair and the fences. This does not include the painting because the painting has not had any change orders and we don't expect any going forward. So As you can see right now, with the first 39 units, we have approximately $131,000 in change orders. We break that down per unit, it would be $33.59 and 32 cents. If I turn around and add that with the original part of the contract, that would make each unit $8,143 and some change. Multiply that to the 172 units. Now we have $1,460,000. This is 577,000 or approximately 75% more than our original contract of 822. So that's how we start off the meeting, by just ripping the Band-Aid off and looking at what we're dealing with going forward. So at that, I am open to questions.
Do the board members, before I ask the audience, the board members have any questions? I do. What's your latest schedule completion estimate?
Uh, There was an updated schedule from the contractor last week, and he has moved it out to the first week of October now. And he's given himself about 3.5 weeks of buffer in that. Because I said, let's go ahead and do a worst case scenario. Let's plan on even more change orders, and let's look at 2 weeks worth of rain that we have to stop still for the spring. Let's just say if we had that, so that puts us out at what would now be 53 weeks worth of work instead of the original schedule of 40.
Second question, have you thought about when we might be ready to begin phase 2, recognizing we've got to inspect for damage first? Have you given any thought to that?
Well, we'll probably do the inspection for phase 2 either in March or early April. So we will have that inspection done into the board probably for the May 1st meeting. So I'll probably attend that meeting and submit it and be here for questions.
And then following up, we would then prepare an RFP and have job walks with prospective contractors.
Right.
And trying to get them on board, what, this summer?
Yeah, we would do
Yeah.
an RFP during May, have it approved at the June board meeting, have probably already sent some to the prospective contractors who we know we're going to get
Mhm.
bids from. Do that for the month of June, and then for July, be able to vote on who would be the contractor for phase 2.
Okay. Do you anticipate, we had pretty significant interest in this project for the first phase. What's your thinking? Should we expect significant interest again?
I'm sorry, what was that, John?
We had quite a few people that proposed on the siding work that CPR won. Are you anticipating we may have the same number of interested parties?
Yes, and it will probably be different contractors.
Okay, that's my questions.
I have some questions about the change orders. Maybe you can explain to us how we came up, or how you guys came up with so many changes from the original inspection, and how we can prevent that, or at least reduce this in the future for the phase 2.
So we found 3 major things leading up to this required need for all these change orders. First, when the inspection was done over a year ago, they didn't get on any of the roofs. And it was decided at the time that they weren't going to need to, and it wasn't worth the extra time or getting up and walking around on roofs. We know that was at least 35% of the cost of these change orders. Doing the inspection for phase 2, we're going to be getting on roofs. And we will be doing inspections on the roofs. Secondly, there's just was stuff that was missed. The way it was done, and I don't want to criticize anybody who did it, but we have the luxury of now taking their report and actually doing the work and saying, oh, Well, we're going to do it differently. How we're going to do the inspections is I am going to be leading the inspection and we were already pre-formatted an Excel spreadsheet. And I'm going to be the only person filling it in with 2 supervisors from CPR Construction, our current contractor, hitting the boards, measuring them, and we're going to be marking each spot that's going to get replaced with a small 2 or 3 inch black Sharpie mark. So I'm sorry that people are going to have to look at this mark for a year, but this is going to give us a reference point for whoever comes and does the work 8, 10, 12 months later. And they look at my list and they say, well, he said 4 sheets on this south wall. Which 4 sheets? And we've had this problem now where we have a list and we go look at a building and we say, well, okay, we see 4 here, but I see 4 here. Which 4 is on here? So I can't really tell what was missed, what may have changed. Maybe the dry rot got worse. Was there a plant in front of it before? It's just impossible for me to reconcile the report that we have. So this next report is going to be done differently. Also, I'll be the one running the construction project once we get started. So if somebody has a question, I can say, okay, well, I did it this way and this is how I want to do it. Those are the 2 leading problems that we have found leading up to these change orders. The third problem is stuff that looks good standing on the sidewalk. And we just look fine. And the guys get up there and they start doing deconstruction of a sheet. And all of a sudden the sheet of siding next to it just falls off. And it looks good to stand and look at it. So when we do our inspections, we're going to have an 8 and 10 foot pole with a Phillips screwdriver taped to the end. We're actually going to go along and start poking boards. So this next inspection is going to take at least 2 weeks, where the previous inspection was done within a week. And I think the person who did the previous inspection didn't realize the extent and the detail that was going to have to go into it. The bad news with that is that means phase 2's estimates are going to be a lot higher because they're going to be higher up front.
But hopefully more accurate at the beginning.
Hopefully more accurate. The goal is to be more accurate. My goal would be 10% change orders. That would be a perfect world. Probably going to really have 20 or 25% on phase 2. I think it would be reasonable to have that much in change orders.
Question, you gave some numbers. I'm just going to write them down. I think you said 8,000 per house and then it was, could you just read those again and I'll write it down? Really quick,
Just run
sorry.
back through it. Okay, so in change orders for the first 39 units, the change orders come to $3,300, $33.59 and 32 cents. We multiply that times the 172 units in phase 1, we get 577,803.04. If we add that to the 822,857, we get 1,400,660.04. At our current trajectory, that's where we're at.
Okay, thanks. And then second question is, are the construction costs and materials, are they stabilizing at all or is it gotten worse? The pricing, has inflation calmed down or is it still
So
out of control?
as of right now,
Mhm.
they had pre-ordered so much material. Once we realized at about unit 20 that, oh boy, we are going to be short materials. Materials were then ordered and reserved at that price. So even though we haven't paid for them yet, they're here in town. And when you have 80% change orders, you have 80% more material.
But
So-
for phase 2, are we going to have higher materials and higher labor or?
Right now, labor and material is the same cost per unit as the original contract. I do expect them to go up this summer, but
Yeah,
we
that's
don't know
what my
how much
question is.
yet.
Okay, thanks.
I would say 10, 12% would not surprise me at all.
Other questions from the directors? Hold
Yes.
on, make sure the directors don't have questions. Hold on. Okay, yes, please come up and use the microphone and introduce yourself.
Am I here? Yeah. I'm Peter Klein on Swarthmore. Paul, the horror story appears to be the projection doesn't look good, but of course you have a small sample size, relatively speaking, 20 units out of 170 or whatever.
Yeah, 39 out of the 170.
Okay, good. I can take a breath. So, second is the failures. When you mentioned roof, really concerns me. Could there be material failures for which we would have warranty on the material cost? When you, I think I heard roof was about a third of the change orders.
But it's not the roof.
No, it's not the roofs. Right.
That are cited.
What he's saying is that the previous inspectors who set up the scope of work did not climb up on the roof to see some of the upper siding. And now that will be done. And a lot of the damage has been in those upper areas.
Thank you. I'll cross all my fingers and hope that your sample doesn't talk about the rest of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
And a word on the roofs, every roof I've been on, we've had one roof that needed work that was an older roof, correct?
Yes.
Everything else, the roofs are actually all in pretty good shape. So
Marty?
My question is, what's the criteria for replacing fences on this project? Because I noticed some of them got replaced during this project. Was there some criteria on what amount of damage on the fences had to be there before you replaced them?
if it's more than half of that lineal piece of fence is damaged, then we look at the cost of replacing the whole fence.
So some of these fences are 50 years old, and I mean, there's dry rot everywhere on these fences. So do you take a percentage of boards that don't?
I go by lineal measurement. Let's say with the large patio has 60 foot of fence, which is about an average. If more than 30 foot of that fence is rotten, and if they're rotten, it's more than 30 feet, then we just go ahead and replace the whole fence.
Thank you, Marty.
We're trying to not do the fences as much as possible, but when they come in to start doing the paint prep, we're finding out that they're much worse than they even look.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that my back fence was done, but not my front.
I'm sorry, who's
for the
speaking?
project. Oh, I'm sorry,
sorry.
this is Holly Nielsen.
Oh, hi.
Hi, sorry. Put myself in line.
Any other questions from anyone? Leslie? Make sure you introduce yourself.
Leslie Arnell, I'm on Vanderbilt. One, I appreciate the fact that there's a project manager. Two, I think the small sample size initially is great because it gives you good intel. But three, I wonder what the lessons learned, how they get memorialized for the next time, 15 years, 20 years from now, we're doing this again. Betsy, I think this is a question for you. I'm sure you're hoping you won't be around, right? Half of us are going to be dead. I mean, the question is, how do we're digesting lessons. How do we apply them in the future? And how do they get memorialized for future use? That's really
Right.
my only question.
I think it wouldn't be a bad idea for the board to consider adopting standards and practices around siding replacement projects. Maybe incorporating the scope of work, ensuring that a project manager is always the first step. We talked about this a little bit in executive session, and I think there's a real need for that because 6-7 years is a long time, 8 years is a long time, and it's hard to remember what did we do last time. So even though we have binders and we maintain files, it doesn't give the whole story.
Also, as I understand, the phase one has a lot of older fences compared to the other areas, right? And hopefully we don't have in phase two and phase three. We have already replaced a lot of fencing.
There have been a number of fence replacements throughout the community. I don't know if I could say one section has more than others. I think maybe the oldest fences are probably in phase 3 up here in the zone 1 area.
But this is the smallest area, correct?
Smallest, and it has
And
the
these are
most
more
adjoining
townhomes.
fences, yeah.
Other
Whereas
questions?
with, phase 1 and phase 2, you have the larger lot sizes with more fencing around them, more of the patio, where you have patio homes, which are not here in the older area. So definitely more fencing to be done.
Mary?
Hi, Mary Gray. First, thank you, John, for all that you did, and you will be missed. So I
Thank
just
you.
want to thank you very much. My question is, it seems like based on these increase in costs, I just did a quick calculation that takes us almost to $5 million, which is a lot of our reserves. And I was curious, because no one knows, right, whether it's going to stay the same or get worse or better, we don't know. But right now, based on the sample size, that's a lot of money. And so I'm hoping that some consideration will be given to maybe downsizing other things, other expenditures, so that we don't end up with an assessment in the future because we've overspent our reserves. So it's just a concern that I have based on a quick calculation.
Great, thank you. Okay, one last call for people with questions for Paul. Yes, sir.
I'm Bill Newbill, 304 Dunbar. Question. In your inspections, have you noted any damages, pre-existing damages, i.e. mold or water damage prior to the loss?
Prior
The
to,
damage prior to the storm.
Storm damage. This is the phase 1 siding repairs and everything.
Okay,
So-
this is not storm damage.
No.
Okay,
But to your question, not to my knowledge, and we'll know more after the inspections that are happening right now.
we have to identify
Yeah.
that which is damaged.
Yeah, they are working, but we don't have the results yet.
Okay.
but to answer that question, yes, when I do my walkthrough, 2 weeks before the actual construction, if I see visible mold, then we have to determine why is that? Is it from an irrigation system? Or did we have a wall or roof leak? And
Prior contract.
right. And then when they pull that piece of siding off, because that's usually the piece that's damaged, what does it look like inside the wall?
Well, farmers may call my units, identify what separate by whether it's damage prior to the loss. But my concern is I don't see any plastic over these roofs that have damage. Or they would not have seen.
No, it's on it, and then there's part of it.
Okay, just want to make sure that's not.
Thank you. All right, one last call for questions for Paul. All right, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This has been a learning experience for all of us. Or as someone once told me, it builds character.
Yes. Barbara, did you hear that microphone? Okay, I think it's.
Sorry, yeah, it's pretty gravelly. And I
Okay.
couldn't hear what you were saying when you were responding.
Okay,
But it kind of goes in and out when the questioner is using that mic. Sorry.
okay. And that's a reminder for everybody in the room to stand close to the microphone too. Thank you.
Okay.
That was
Paul?
much better.
Paul, you are free to leave unless you, okay. Great, and thank you again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I won't be there in the morning, by the way. I won't be there in the morning. I'll text everybody else. Thank you.
Wait for him to get out of the room before I tell him how much all we have enjoyed working with him and what a great job he's doing. This is the first time when siding has been done, to my knowledge, where we've actually hired a professional manager. And it's, despite the fact that it's costing a lot of money, he's doing a great job. And I think we should all feel good about it. Okay, next agenda item, the general manager's report. Betsy?
Yeah, so my report is in the board packet. One of the first things I just wanted to highlight, and maybe the board doesn't all know this, so I just want to highlight it to you. In 2019, we part of the contract with First Service was increased to include a point of sale program. So what that means is that if you want to pay for a key card or a clubhouse rental, you don't have to use a checkbook. We do have a little key card or, swipe system at the front desk. And the convenience fee has been flat since it went into place, 2.95, but that is increasing to 3.95. And that is borne by the person using their card to make the purchase. So but that's an increase to that little portion of the contract, and they wanted you to be aware of it. So that's the first thing I've got in there. The storm claim has been a very big job. I'm really grateful for Jackie's help with it. There's been a lot to do. She has tromped around and been on inspections with me, with the claims adjuster, and with Dry Creek Construction, who farmers chose to do the work. They have the resources to do it. They have architects and engineers that they work with regularly, and so far, they seem like a really organized outfit. They've already been over to 1355 Commons, gotten the cars out of the garage for those homeowners so they can have their cars at least. Not a garage, but and they're living off site. So it's really a convenience for them to have their cars back. And right now we are in the process of having structural engineers looking at the units, looking at the damage to see what needs to be done for the workers to even begin their work. I can tell you that we have already received claim payments, and that's for the debris removal, meaning that getting the trees off the houses and getting the walkways and driveways cleared and getting the trees out of the way. However, there is a $200,000 limit on that component. So we are already at about $220,000 out of pocket. They have reimbursed us for 200,000 of it. The remainder goes towards our deductible. So that's pretty good. And then once we get to the actual unit repairs, that should be 100% covered by direct payments from farmers to the contractor. So, and we did have a meeting for homeowners to the ones that were affected, these addresses. So I think it's going pretty well so far. Yeah. And so that was that. Not a lot on landscape. It's just all storm cleanup. Marcus Lazada, our new facility technician, joined us on January 9th, the day after the major windstorm. So he had to hit the ground running. It's been an interesting time for him. He has really been great about being present for the pre-inspections of the phase 1 homes, learning what it is that Paul and Mike and the team are looking at, and also identifying the areas that we probably need to address with homeowners, things like plants that might be right up against the siding or trellises attached to fences, that kind of thing. So it's a big help to me because I certainly, cannot do that in my regular job. So that's been huge. Just wanted to let you know that next month we may have proposals from Bruce Sheldon of Tennis Court Specialists. He came out and took a look at things out here. Per the reserve study, we have the 2 minor courts that are due for repaving this year. So we'll see what his report and recommendations are next month, I believe. And I think everybody knows that Lund Construction is out here, and then you saw my e-blast about that. They're putting the direct wiring into conduit, so we'll have a safer power supply. And then I did include some of the correspondence that we've had from our claims adjuster. payment of 200,000 was submitted just a few days ago, 131, what was the date? January 27th. And I'm not going to scroll through a whole lot more because most of it is the work order report. Are there any questions from directors?
I have a question. How much after, I mean, it's great we're getting the 200,000 for the landscaping, but I was in the beginning of the finance committee meeting and you mentioned those horrible stumps that can't be ground with the stump
The
grinder
stumps
and they're going to
are-
be $8,000. How many of those do we have? And I think we should, in light of what someone was talking about the paint and siding, maybe we should be really careful about some of those projects like the valve project and a few other things that we might have to be really careful this year, but how much could that potentially be in those? roof
Yeah,
walls?
we did a quick, like penciled it out today. We're waiting for the proposal from Carson to remove the stumps. And just to remove stumps and repair irrigation, we think it could run about $100,000. And again, that would not be covered under the insurance claim. So
Then the sidewalks, there's some sidewalk damage too.
that
or is
will
that
be covered. That,
Okay,
yeah,
all
that
right.
is covered as well as any pole light damage. And we have a couple of those repairs in process. So those are
Okay.
covered items,
Great,
but
thanks.
landscape is not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It is time for committee updates. And first on the list is architecture. Alan Waters. I see you're on Zoom and I'm wondering where you're living these days. Maybe you could tell us, since I see your home is got a sign that says danger, stay away. So Alan, you're on.
Where's Alan?
Alan, are you there? There you are.
Oh, Alan, I can see that you're speaking, but we're not hearing you.
Alan, are you mute?
Oh, there it is.
I'm unmuted now. Okay, so you can hear me?
Yes.
Good. All right. You asked. I'm living in another quote condominium development called Swallow's Nest Country Club over in western southern Natomas. And it is not as nice as Nepenthe in many, many ways, especially the layout of the grounds, the bushes and the trees. And I'm back in Nepenthe nearly every day. So I'm fine for the moment. I don't have anything to add to the architectural committee's report. Does the board have any questions for me? There are no
I do.
approvals this month.
I do, Alan.
Yes.
Alan, it's Marcus. Could you explain quick, you guys did a inspection of a home that is in the process of being sold,
Yes.
that estoppel inspection. How did that go?
It went very smoothly. We looked at the exterior of the home and eyeballed such as we could see of the siding, roof, fences. I guess our main findings and warnings were about things having to do with keeping as we've been talking about, keeping plants away from siding and fencing and keeping the level of the soil or mulch down below a certain level below the siding and fencing. It went well from my point of view. And I think we responded fairly quickly in time to aid the buyer and the real estate agents. Betsy was kind enough to join us. Thank you, Betsy.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, isn't it? And I
Yes.
think I think it's going to be a good process. Thank you.
Does
Alan,
does that answer your question, Marcus?
Yes, thank you, Alan,
Okay.
for doing that.
Alan, does that conclude your report?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Insurance committee, is Nancy Arndorfer here? I don't see her in the room.
Jerry's here, I think.
Okay, I'm
Jerry?
done with my official report part.
Time to mute, Alan.
That's okay. We got it.
Is Jerry Dunn on?
No.
Apparently not. Okay. Grounds committee, Christina?
Oh, what about finance?
It's not even on the list, finance.
It's not on the list, but I will,
Well, that's because they didn't have minutes, but Susan Timmer is present.
I know she is, but I called Christina first. Let's go, Christina.
Okay, I just want to refer back to the grounds minutes. And we do ask actually some guidance from the board. Apart from, and I'm just looking for that now here. So we did, I set up a grounds tracking, a grounds work order tracker, and which starts in January of 2023. So according to that tracker, we have, just looking for this one here, sorry. You jumped me on this one, John. We've already committed close to $200,000 in 2023, and we're sort of at the end, let's say February the 1st. And we have had few more invoices coming in. So really right now we're looking at something like 200 for landscape, about 212,000, trees, 236,000. And this is for just here. So one of the things I'd like to clarify with the board or get some guidance from the board, because last meeting you had asked the grounds committee to conduct zone walks and to come back and submit perhaps work orders for proposals for any landscape deficiencies which ranked A and B. Now, when you're looking at these figures, and you can see what the upcoming storm damage remediation is going to be. That's number one, which is going to be huge. Then we also have tree removal remediation, which is associated with the annual tree report. So there's removals and pruning. Then we also have items per our contract, which was plant healthcare, main treatments, and also the leaf care. And then we've also got drainage issues. So I'm just trying to get some clarification guidance from the board to say, look, we've already spent a lot of money here. We've got a whole lot of other expenses. How do you want us to move forward on this? And I think that's where I'm going to have to, since you're not going to be here, John, I would have to look at Cheryl and Marcus and Jackie and yourself. So,
Cheryl, would you like to address that?
Yes, I would like to ask a couple of questions if I can first, Christina.
yes,
We took a look, I think, at the meeting at our 2022 expenses. And I wanted to clarify that the year-to-date for landscaping was $1,080,324. And that conforms with what the HOA has shown in the first service reports, correct?
yes, we did look through the 2022 reserve tracker at the meeting, and that is what we determined. Yes.
Okay, great. I know that we've also received the $200,000 from the insurance company. Is that included in the 199,000 you're talking about?
No,
Okay,
no, it's not. So yes, I'm assuming, Betsy, it is 100,000 per, it's 200,000 for the grounds, but it says total payment on the list says 190,000. So I'm just not sure as to how that.
Right. I better use the microphone
So
too.
it's a little confusing.
It is a little confusing, and obviously the board can direct this a little further, but my initial instructions to the accounting department was to apply 100,000 towards trees to cover the cost of removing the trees, and 100,000 towards landscaping to cover the costs associated with landscape not remediation, but cleanup debris. So it does come back as a credit to us. So, right here, you at the bottom right, you show 415,575 is pending. You can subtract 200,000 from that total, and basically that's a good
Right.
credit to you.
And that's what I did on the grounds tracker. And I believe I sent you copy. I'm not sure, and I think I sent you that,
Yes.
showing the credit of the
Correct.
200,000. But
Yeah.
we are still, but that still does not
Right.
move away from the fact that we've got these huge expenses still ongoing, which would going to hit us.
Correct.
Um,
And Betsy,
yeah.
is it correct that there are still expenses that are coming that will be claimed, perhaps to offset some of the deductible?
Yes, and like I was just telling Ashley, I mean, the stumps alone covers your deductible and then some, but you're kind of already at your deductible, so
Absolutely.
yeah. And there won't be any coverage for those items.
So
Right.
our deductible is we've got 200,000 and our expenses were 212, but so we've got to the top of the policy, the
Right.
insurance
Right,
policy.
right. The actual expenses at this point, I have 2 invoices that I haven't even processed for reserve expense, and they're for debris cleanup in the amount of about, I want to say $23,000. And we were already exceeding the 200,000 by 12,000. So
Mhm.
there's your deductible, between those 2 things.
And we are still waiting for some further inspections. Is that correct? For insurance, for damages that are there that must be repaired?
Right. And that's for the
Okay.
units, and that will be paid directly to the company making the repairs.
Correct.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I understood that.
Question, I mean, I think I saw your tracker and I saw Betsy's for the finance committee. I think that those are both good. I think we should add in, if we approve something in a meeting, which meeting was it? And it's just easier to reference, but I think we should build in what we're in contract for with Carson, like, there was which were the items in the Carson contract, the extras?
The leaf pickup.
29,000 for the leaf pickup.
Well, I didn't
Or
get
is-
that. I think it's 10,000 is what's on the tracker that I have, but I
Well,
don't.
that's what
yeah.
the invoice says for one of them, but there's 3 of them, 3 months or 4 months, Betsy?
There's 3 months, and last year on the 2022 contract, it was 10,000, 10,000, and I
And-
mean,
Well, I've got the invoice for 10,000, which was for December.
yeah.
So, and that
December.
has been, yeah.
So it's
which we're paying
10,000 in
January.
December, 10,000 in November,
Yeah.
and I want to say 5 or 7,000 for October. So those have all been paid, but the 2023 contract has a similar line that comes due at the end of 2023.
Well, can we take those from your tracker and her tracker? Can we put those at the top? So at least it's,
Oh.
so when we're looking at the remaining to spend, it's just, that we don't have to stick something into pending in October, where it's like, oops, we forgot.
Yeah, it could go into pending now because.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Right,
Well,
yeah.
as far as the grounds work order tracker is concerned, I will be inputting it as when we get firstly, the work order. We have a work order number. It's then connected to the invoice number and then the payment amount. And so I know that we are going to have plant maintenance care, which is close to $100,000, correct?
It's more than that.
Yeah, we
A lot
can,
more.
what I can do is go through the contract that the board approved in their December meeting and take each of those line items, whether it's plant, health care or
From the
leave-
contract,
and
yeah.
go ahead and place the work orders now, but
Yeah.
note the dates, that the dates will be later. That way you have it on your work order tracker. I also have it on my
Perfect.
reserve tracker.
Fine, whichever,
Okay.
yeah.
I think it's
Thank
really
you.
clear, important to understand that the grounds work order tracker is based on work orders. That's the primary function, not financial tracking. It's there to monitor so that grounds committee can understand where we are, what we have, when it's completed and what's been paid, but not to necessarily monitor how much money we have left. That's not a function really for the grounds committee. That's where the HOA reports come in for the directors to see. That's not that we're not going to share it occasionally at a periodic basis or whatever we determine with grounds, but that's not the intent of that tracker.
That's absolutely right. And that's not the purpose of it. And it's just really to see for a monthly, for the grounds committee, just to have an idea. We're not really tracking we don't have every penny, but we're just making sure that everybody has an idea as to what exactly has been spent, say in the month of January, February, whatever. So Plant healthcare is going to be put into that tracker because we know when that, I think there's a few months when this happens, when,
Right.
yeah.
And I think the goal too is that the stewards can see what work has been ordered and they
Absolutely.
can
Yeah.
monitor
Yeah.
that it's being
So,
done.
yeah.
Right.
So another question that I have, so before all this storm happened, we had a plan on this year, starting with remediating or working on our
Yes.
water wells. And we had, what, a week and a half ago, we had a walk with some people from Carson looking at all this. Now, when I look at all the numbers here and all the storm remediation and so on, would it be wise for maybe look a little bit deeper into this and maybe wait for a while to move forward with that until we have a better indication what we truly need to do and fix before we move forward with an expensive project like that?
Yeah, I'd like to move that the board look at this whole issue, examine it, make some decisions, gather some information, and come back to grounds for the next meeting.
So would you address the items that have been? That's on that note. Say.
I think while Cheryl is answering her phone,
I d- That's-
I think Marcus's point is well taken. I think we need to take a step back, and which is guidance you're looking for.
Guidance I'm looking for is on the items that have been mentioned in the minutes. And then how the board decides what they decide to do as far as the IBP project is concerned, that would be separate.
Well, just going back a little bit, I agree with Marcus and what he said, and especially we're going to be getting Paul Reeves, in May or whenever it is, we'll have a better idea then. I don't think it's anything we need to do right now. And I like the tracker, and I think we should track the other projects, the A, B, C, Ds, E's, and, have another list of things so that we do this once a year, like Betsy had suggested before, and we'll just see what we have money for. And unfortunately, there's a lot of unknowns right now. And I think even May is going to be really hard that we only do like just the really critical things, but we'll see.
Well, this is why I'm asking this for a board decision as to how we move forward on this. What you want us to do based on the fact that you've asked us to do zone walks, but we also have now this. So it would be nice if we could sort of get some idea before zone stewards go out there and work and spend a lot of time out there.
When is the next zone walk scheduled?
It's scheduled for Friday, but it seems perhaps weather permitting.
When do you anticipate a list with all the thump and all that
I
stuff?
know
managed
Oscar's
out?
preparing that right now. The board has an executive session on Monday to determine the officers' positions. Under the category of contract negotiation, you can take up this request and decide a little further amongst the five of you, what is the way to move forward with Carson projects?
So what I really don't want is that the grounds committee members feel that they are not needed or so on, because a couple of months ago when we sort of postponed it or halted the zone walks, I think they got a little bit offended, and I really don't want that to happen. I want them to understand why we may postpone it for a purpose or for a reason, or I think you guys should make the decision. You make the decision whether you think it's needed or not, the zone walk.
No, I think it really depends on the board to determine as to what you want us to I think that's Cheryl would maybe.
Right. I think there are some conflicting things here that this board really needs to make some discussion in private and gather information and make decisions. And that's my motion, is that we do that and come back with a decision that takes into all of these possibilities and decisions. That's still the board's responsibility, and through
the grounds committee to look at and see what needs to be done to maintain this community and the resources and amenities in the community. So we can't stop that, but we need to give you direction as to what's priority and how to proceed. And the best way for that is for us to deliberate and come back
Yes,
to you.
that'll be
So
great.
that's my motion.
Well, then let's hope we have by next week sometime as much information as possible. And before that zone walk on Friday, we have
Well, unless
a
we,
decision.
yeah, we could do the zone walk because there was some work that was done in zone 5, so we can always
Okay.
review the work
Yeah.
and see how Carson, what
All right.
Carson has done, et cetera. So that is beneficial, but hopefully in the meantime, the board will come back with some
Yeah.
sort of advice or guidance. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you very much.
Oh.
Well, you're not on the agenda, so we,
Make a motion on it, but I think you can agree informally that that's going to be taken up on the Monday agenda. And I misspoke. I said the 5 of you, but I mean the 4 of you.
gee,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
That's my call, not yours. Yeah. Okay, Susan Timmer, Finance Committee, do you have something to report?
Hi, good evening. We had our meeting on Monday, so that's why you don't have our minutes in the board packet. So if you'd like, I can just kind of briefly review what we talked about.
Yes, briefly.
Yes, briefly. We talked a little bit about the projected reserve expenses for 2023 that are going to be soon developed. And there were a couple of areas that we thought the board should take a look at because they'll have an impact on the allocations for this year. Siding and painting, we've already talked about. Excuse me. Paving. There's an outstanding contractual obligation for $81,000 that will affect this current year's obligation. Tennis courts, there are the courts on Elmhurst. I guess there's some discussion, disagreement about how it should be used, whether it should be continued to be used as a tennis court. And I apologize, I don't know a lot about the issue, but if it isn't going to be used as a tennis court, the one on Elmhurst, then that would eliminate the need for resurfacing those courts. And then the issue of landscape and irrigation and trees, we've just heard a lot from the grounds committee. And these, not only the invoices that had not been paid before the end of the year, but a lot of the damage from the storm has also created expenses that will affect this year's allocations. So you might want to just take a look at that and think about it, board. We reviewed the year-end reserve expenditures, and Betsy showed a couple of different documents, including the reserve tracker and the end of year reserve fund balances. At the beginning of the year, we had 10,402,713 and change. And at the end of the year, we had 11,098,656 and change. This was more than we expected, but we also, as I mentioned before, had some contractual obligations totaling 1,161,360. So that brings down the end of the year balance a little bit. And there was, let's see, Betsy reported, and I think you've seen this in the grounds committee, the total amount spent on just landscaping in the last year was 671,821. And then with irrigation and trees, it brings it up higher. But I think there's been some discussion among homeowners and wanting the correct numbers. And so there you have it. Betsy also described the invoicing system that First Service uses. And kind of just educated us on how this all works. The vendors directly input invoices into First Services system. These invoices are reviewed and signed off by 2 board members before payments can be authorized. Okay. And the board members are provided information about when projects are approved and the total dollar allocation, along with that invoice information. So just to give everybody a sense of what's involved in this process. We also saw a new streamlined version of the reserve tracker, and we liked it and recommended approving it, but Will made a recommendation that the current year's tracker also include these obligated pending expenses that carried over from the prior year, so that you have a sense of how much is already kind of eating into current year's allocations. We reviewed the year-end operations expenditures, and we had a overall negative variance. We had some increases in our kind of regular contracts, a pool contract, janitorial contracts, that increased our expenditures by about 100,000, a little bit more than anticipated. And last, there was a proposal from First Service that we close some of our high volume, low yield CDs. This would involve taking a penalty for early closure, but on balance, I mean, the difference in the amount of that we would gain outweighs the penalty for early closure. We'll move to approve First Services recommendation for closing out these low interest CDs, paying the penalty and reinvesting in the higher yield instruments. Tara seconded the motion and we all approved. And that is that. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
I think we're going to the agenda item of the CDs, aren't we? Isn't it on? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Yeah, that's coming.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay, you bet.
Outreach, Marcy?
This has been very sobering conversation so far. And hopefully I'll put a little light into it. For February, the Outreach Committee has one event planned. It's free. You haven't heard that word tonight. We're going to run a bingo game on the 24th of February. It is free and it's just for fun. So come and join us. It's just a way to get together on a Friday night. And since the insurance folks aren't here, there is an insurance forum on February 16th. Betsy, is it 6 o'clock?
Yep.
And we have some guests. Do you want to tell us who those are?
At the moment, the one confirmed guest is Christina Keel, our agent at Rick Russo Insurance, and she is going to be able to answer homeowners' questions about the association's policy and also be able to let homeowners know what they need to cover in their home. So that's huge. And I know they're also, Jackie probably can speak to this better than I can, seeking out somebody from
Someone from FEMA
Yeah.
and someone from the American River Flood Control District.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They have not confirmed.
We've also invited the city of Sacramento's floodplain manager. Tried to get somebody from Safeco, but he declined. So get somebody from the city.
Ask them to bring food.
Good idea.
They make a lot of money from us, so.
Okay, that's not my, anyway, that's not my thing.
I'll tell Tina.
Okay. So we are also looking for some ideas for fun things to do during the winter time, just for folks to get together. So if you have any suggestions on that, we'd like to hear from you. And also if you want any informational meetings, we can try to set those up also. And John, I want to thank you for being our representative on the outreach committee. We're going to miss you. So
Thank you.
he doesn't say very much, but that's okay.
I'm outnumbered 12-1.
Yeah. A lot of women
I
there.
can't get a word in.
And there's no changes on our minutes. Thank you, Joan.
Thanks, Betsy. Marcy, thank you. Okay, we have come to the first homeowner forum. So this is an opportunity for owners to speak to the board. Ground rules. You will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. And please be concise and please be courteous. So who would like to speak first? Yes, sir. And make sure you introduce yourself.
Closely to the mic.
I'm Bill Newbill, 304 Dunbar. I was gonna ask Betsy if she would do 3 things.
Okay.
1, would you have farmers review that endorsement I talked to you about? And when we look in terms of completed operations, if they cut the tree down, you have stump left, they have coverage all the way to the ground. That might take up at least $30,000 or $40,000.
You speak closer to the mic, please. I'm sure people can't hear you.
But I heard
I
you.
was asking you.
But if you come.
Yeah, the people on Zoom may not be able to hear you.
I was trying to save $50,000.
I know. That's why you need to speak louder.
Second thing, if you would notify every one of the homeowners that there may be an assessment and you put it in a letter form so they can give it to their insurance carrier. And it may be covered under assessment under your homeowner's policy or your what's called your condo policy. And the third thing is, if you keep track of your time, it's greater than normal expenses to run the operation as you do. Keep those time limits and turn it into second expense. It's covered by your policy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Is there someone else who would like to speak? No. Anyone on Zoom care to speak? Going.
Yes.
Oh boy, you just beat the gong.
Yeah, I might have missed it, but what is SMUD doing and what do we need to know as homeowners?
Well, Betsy can advise on this, but when this development was built, the electrical circuitry from the street to the homes, the cables were direct buried. Now, I can tell you, I've worked in the construction industry for a long time, and direct burial was the way to go for a long time. Well, it's turned out to be a problem. So SMUD recognizes that. So now, for instance, what's happening over here in Adelphi, and they've already done it over in Swarthmore, they are now installing all the electrical cables in conduit. So if they fail, they can just pull them out and put in a new one. So the goal here is to make our electrical supply more sustainable and more reliable.
Yep.
Do I get that right?
Yes. And I'll put something in the newsletter about it as well.
Okay, good. Did that answer your question, Betty?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? Okay, let's go on to the next item, homeowner correspondence. You want to walk us through these, Betsy?
Well, I think you've already reviewed this letter from Mr. Apostolo. I don't know if you want to work on a response. I know that that is something that the secretary may choose to do with board input. So
I think we're going to want our attorney to be involved in that. This is just a question about different sections of the bylaws.
okay,
So I think we need to ask Brad to weigh in on that.
okay.
Okay. And the next one, there's a second one too.
There is a second one, and it is from oof, Give me a minute. 1425 Commons Drive. And it is a kudos from Steve Huffman, who knows a little thing about ground since he was the chair for a number of years. And he's giving credit to Carson Landscape for their great job in the storm cleanup. And says he's thankfully lives in a homeowners association because you represent a big client. You're a big client.
You know, I'm glad he did this because, you know, I said earlier, and I will say it again, we not only have a good contractor, we have a good relationship with that contractor. And for them to come out at 2 a.m. on New Year's Eve and start taking care of crushed cars was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's go on then to the next agenda item, which is the consent calendar. Any questions from the board about what's on the consent calendar? No, may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Second, I'm on the wrong page, I think, page 4.
I'm sorry?
Or page three of the consent calendar.
I need a binder.
So we have the approval.
Oh, I've been running all day.
I know.
So.
Approval of minutes, financial statement, no architectural, and then there's a lien resolution.
Okay.
8 items A through D.
Okay,
And
may I have a motion?
I
may-
moved that we accept the
have a second?
consent calendar.
Moved by Cheryl, second by Jackie. Any objections from the board? Without objection, the consent calendar is approved. Okay, new business. Betsy, would you like to introduce this?
Right. This is, she's been acting as de facto committee, but this would make official Jackie's role as our representative to farmers. Should decisions be made about, I can't, at the moment, I can't even think of one, but I just think this is a smart CYA kind of move. As a committee member, she can confer with all of you via email or text and would not be prohibited from doing so by the Open Meeting Act because she's acting in her role as the committee, which is a huge help because that way you can have
This is
immediate input.
this is a brilliant idea.
Thank you. And that way you can have immediate things. So the resolution is to appoint Director Gravitas to serve as the appointed claims committee to handle necessary decisions related to the current storm claim with.
I have a motion.
I move to accept this resolution.
Second. Mark a second. Any objections from the directors? Without objection, Jackie, you're it.
I don't know anybody who'd be more qualified though, really.
I know, yeah.
It's 40 years, right?
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
she has personal experience. All right. Item 8B, investment recommendations. Betsy, can you introduce this, please?
Yeah, so we have some CDs maturing soon. And when Carla from First Service Financial reviewed our current standings, she made some recommendations. I'm going to bring this up a little bigger. So the ones that are maturing, I'm sorry, I think that.
Are these the ones that the finance committee recommended?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not, it's just moving things around. It is closing a couple of CDs a little bit early. There is a penalty, but it's made up for by increased interest revenue. So that's why she's making that recommendation. And I thought I had a note from her in here to the board. Right. There's a lot.
I just have a comment. I mean, I noticed that we're putting the 2 million into a 1-month CD, which, I mean, the rate's pretty good for 1 month of 4.35, but I work with this stuff and I sell these things, not CDs, but I sell annuities that kind of are ahead of what the CDs are doing a little bit. But the last 2 months, we've had decreases on our guaranteed rates. And I feel like 1 month is okay for now to think about it, but I think pretty soon here, we actually want to look at some longer duration CDs, believe it or not. That we might want to look at, 24 months isn't that long, but I think we're nearing the point next meeting or so that we're just going to have to go just 1 month. We're going to have to talk about it again, which is okay, but it'll give us a chance. But I think we should look at 4 and 5 year maybe, or 3.
I think in this instance, she's anticipating the siding costs needing money quicker.
Okay.
Right.
I see
So,
what you
so the
mean.
1 month
Liquidity.
will give us a little boost. So when, more bills come due very shortly as they move along in the siding, that will be
Okay.
ready for them.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions from board members? So Betsy, we're being asked to approve these changes.
Right. Approve the recommendations from First Service Financial for the investment of reserve funds as outlined in the supporting documents.
May I have a motion from the board?
And that was looked at by the finance committee and is
Right.
recommended.
Yes.
Right.
I just want to make sure it is what recommended by the finance committee. Okay.
Yes, with unanimous approval by the finance committee.
Okay.
I have a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion.
May I have a second? Any objections from board members? Without objection, approved. I might add, speaking of trying to be a little bit liquid because of these, I see we have some money with Morgan Stanley. They are offering to preferred customers, which I'm expecting we are, what's called a preferred savings plan, which is totally liquid and is currently yielding 4%. So we ought to look into that.
I mentioned to Carla that we needed to look at savings liquid. I know that there's probably a limit on how many transactions we can do per month. But she said she would give us something and I don't see it.
I have some money with Morgan Stanley and they've offered this and it's liquid. It's FDIC insured.
Capital One right now is 3.3.
The only problem is that the rate varies. So it's 4% now. It was 3.5% a couple of months ago. And I suspect it'll go up and down. So something worth questioning.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Last item on the agenda, second homeowners forum.
Yeah.
Anyone care to speak again? Anyone on Zoom? Well, sorry, I've had to resign.
Jerry, I'm sorry.
Jerry,
Jerry, I can bring you a microphone. Okay.
I just want to say, John, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
You've done marvelous things for us.
thank you, Jerry.
Tree burn, or whatever that's called.
Well, I appreciate Karen, you have something to say?
I just wanted to add my thanks, and I'm sure that of many others for your service, John. It's just been, I think your welcoming attitude, and everybody's communication styles are different and there's pluses and minuses to every style, but you've been, you've modeled listening to people and respectfully honoring the people on Zoom as well as in the audience. And I think it's resulted in a lot more participation and attendance and things. And our committees have just absolutely, renewed in many ways. Case in point, of course, is the outreach committee, but don't ever wonder if you haven't made a big difference and will continue to do so. And there's a Netflix, I always think of it, a Netflix series called Better Call Saul or something like that. And there's nothing about you that reminds me of that except that title, and that, so many of us, it's Better Call Betsy or Better Call John, or so thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen, and Jerry, thank you very much. Okay, my last official act. We're done.
You don't get to keep the gavel. I
don't get to keep it?
No, it's not a party gift. All right, thanks, everybody on Zoom.